We are ready to go.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the March 18th meeting of the Tompkins County Facilities and Infrastructure Committee. And we have Dan Klein here in the chambers with me. I see Dave McKenna. We're waiting for Ann Koreman. Glenn Morey is excused this morning. He won't be with us. Let's call to order. Are there any changes to the agenda? Do we have any public comment, Brittany?
We do not.
Chair's report, I would have reported on the ITCTC meeting, but I reported about that at legislature. So I think unless anybody else wants to hear that report again, I think we'll leave it at that. There's Ann Koreman has joined us. Welcome, Ann. Lisa, are you here for the county administrator's report?
I am, and I don't have any report or update this morning.
See, that's a good thing about an early morning meeting.
It's true.
Let's go next to facilities. Aurel Lamaro is with us. Aurel? At least I think he's with us. Morning, Aurel. Are you there with us?
Yes, good morning. Yeah, sorry.
That's all right. We've got you up next.
Okay. The first two resolutions are having to do with lease renewals. I didn't prepare those, administration did, but these are long-term leases that we've had. One is for DMV, and the other one is for the Alcohol and Drug Council. So the first one, DMV, we're actually paying the landlord. The second one, they're paying us, the county.
Would you like us to do those first?
Yes, please.
Okay, let's get resolution A on the agenda. Renewal of Tompkins County Department of Motor Vehicles 5-year lease, ID 9990. Anyone want to move that, please?
Yeah, I'll move it, Mike.
Dave has moved it. Is there a second? Seconded by Dan. Discussion on that one. I would only say that along with the next one, I was interested in looking to make sure that there is an out for us if we needed to terminate the lease sooner than 5 years. And there is, according to its language. Anything else? Ready to vote? Dave?
Yes.
Ann?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
I vote yes. That's unanimous. Let's go to resolution B, renewal of Drug and Alcohol Council of Tompkins County 5-year lease, 9978. Someone want to move that one?
Yeah, I'll move it again.
Dave, seconded by Ann. Discussion on this one. I think they've been with us a long time in the mental health building, and if you read the memo, they seem to feel there's good synergy between mental health and substance abuse issues. And so it makes a lot of sense for them to be there. Shall we vote? Dan?
Yes.
Ann?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
I vote yes. That's unanimous. So we head you down, Aurel, for an update on your department. You want to talk to us a little? You're still muted.
There we go. Actually, I wanted to report, remember at the last meeting, we talked about signage. So I wanted to, if I can share the screen, I'll kind of refresh your memory on the signage that we're planning to put on the exterior, and then show you what we're planning to put as far as building ID, the name of the building, and address. So bear with me. So this is the exterior signage that we're planning to put.
There we go. Yeah,
You-
we
you
see
all-
it.
All right. Are you all able to see that then?
Yes.
Okay. And so we have two of these signs are already fabricated. We're working with the installers to do underground, UFPO for any underground lines or cables.
Speak up just a little, Laurel.
Can you hear me better now?
A little bit.
Okay. So in any case, we're working to get these two signs installed. One will be at the front of the building, and it's this one. I don't know if you can see my cursor on the lower right here. It's
Yes.
the same as this sign, but it has at the very bottom, it indicates that the DeWitt Park entrance is around the back side of the building. So it'll direct people to the DeWitt side, the south side of the building. That'll be in the front. This one here will be placed on the DeWitt side of the building. And so I'm going to show you where we're planning to do that. So the sign on the front, we're planning to place right here. I don't sure if you can see my cursor right there.
No.
We're still looking at the sign pictures, or not the building pictures.
Oh, really? Okay. And I've not used the. Are you seeing a picture now of the front of the building?
No.
No.
All right, hold on. Apparently, I'm having connection issues. So anyway, I'll tell you verbally then. The front sign will be placed, now it says I can share the screen. Are you able to see that now?
It's
Not
still
quite.
coming up. Still coming up.
Do you see the photograph of the front of the building?
Yes.
Yes,
we have
now I
it.
got it.
So if you can see my cursor, if not, it's basically on this, between that, the blue sign that you see there and the sidewalk to the left will be the sign for the front, at the front of the building, directing the public towards the south side, the DeWitt side of the building. This then is the south side of the building, the DeWitt entrance. Can you all see that?
Yes.
Okay. And so what we're proposing is to put the same sign as the one in the front, place it next to this lamp post that you see in the forefront, in that grass area where my mouse is, if you see my mouse.
Yeah.
We do, yes.
That is not our property. It's the Baptist Church property. However, we power that lamppost. That power comes from our building. We've done that for as long as I can remember. And so we are going to approach, or we may have already approached them. Our general maintenance supervisor is going to approach them this morning to see if we can place the sign there. If not, then we would put it right up against the ramp here, the front of the ramp. I don't know if you see my mouse there.
Yep.
Right along here. But our preferred spot is here for the placement.
Yep, come in. Thank you.
And then what I wanted to show you then are the building ID signs. So this is what we're looking at placing this sign here, the top one that says Governor Daniel D. Tompkins Building with 121 East Court Street and the county seal.
Not seeing that photo, Arel.
Okay, let me close this. Are you seeing it now?
It's coming up.
Yes.
Yeah, there
Okay.
it goes.
So the top left sign that is 8 inches in height and 36 inches across is the one that we'd like to use. And it's similar to the material or metal. It's that anodized bronze that we used for the dedicatory plaque that's inside the lobby there at the DeWitt entrance, if you recall, that we put there, I don't know, a couple of years ago. Where we'd like to place that is right above the entrance doors. And so I'm going to have to shut this down and bring up the photograph.
I feel like we lost him entirely.
You lost Arel?
Yeah.
Got to unmute him.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm having a bad connection. I was actually at the office, but I got a call at my home that there's a problem with our heating system. So I had to rush here, and the connection at my home is not the best. So I apologize for that. So I'm going to bring up an image here where we're planning to place the building ID. Are you able to see that photograph?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so that 8 inch in height by 36 across, we're planning to place right above the doorway here. We didn't want to mount it to the building because we might compromise the finish, that stucco finish, and get water intrusion. And so it's a fairly large sign. It would be right above the doorway here. And we would mimic it at the DeWitt entrance as well. Those we have not ordered yet. The other ones are ordered and ready to install. This building ID sign has not been. So I wanted to get kind of some reaction to see if at least the committee agrees with that sign versus the other ones that I showed earlier.
Would it be attached to the grill work, Arel?
Well, we would attach it. There's wood right above. There's actually a little ledge right along here that grill sets on, but there's a little room up in front of the grill on that ledge. We would set it there, and we would try to attach it to the wood behind somehow, not to the grill.
Would it block a small portion of the bottom of the grill? Just trying to picture where it is.
Yes.
Okay.
It's basically 8 inches. That bottom, the wood there just on the bottom portion of the glass, I think is probably 4 inches. And so it'd be another additional 4 inches above that would be blocked.
I don't see any problem with it myself.
Ann, any thoughts?
I was just gonna say, I appreciate, Arel, you not trying to avoid going into the stucco, because I know that does cause a lot of problems.
Yeah, years ago, there was a metal sign actually to the left of this door. And actually we were getting water intrusion and we were getting cracking. And so, yeah, we didn't want to compromise the finish there. And really wanted to keep it as close to the door because that's typically where people are looking for an address. And it's large enough that people should not miss, that this is it's actually a courthouse, not a church.
Looks fine to me.
Okay.
I mean,
And then also,
one question. So now we don't have the other sign up. I don't remember. So the other sign that's going to be towards the street, more towards the street, does that have the address also?
yes, this is actually a photograph that that I prepared. So this is basically the sign above the door. I don't know if you see this.
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
And these are really larger than they need to be. And I think most people are looking here. And these are more expensive, these lower ones. Trying to see if I've got the front street. Okay, so this is where the one along Court Street, the sign will be between this blue sign and then the sidewalk. It'll be placed 4 feet away from the sidewalk and 8 feet back from the front sidewalk. We'll have the sign. And then in the back, the other sign, we're hoping to get it right to the left of this lamppost. It'll be 4 feet up, the sign.
So in the front and in the back, will there be one at a lower height than above the door that says the actual address?
Correct. So pedestrians would see that as they're approaching the building from either side.
But without having to look above the door, there'll be another sign with the actual address.
No, the one that I showed before it would have the name of the building, and below that it would say Tompkins County Legislature, Planning and Sustainability, and then TC or our MPO. I always forget how to pronounce their long name. But yes, those will all be listed, but it won't have the street address. That will only be on the building itself.
Yeah, I don't know if that's any issue for accessibility for people. I don't know. I'm just bringing that up.
Anyone else?
Rel, can you go back to that photo that showed the viewer looking at, but there were 3 signs up? Yeah, so was that meant to show us like 3 options for where it could be placed?
Well, that's what the signage company that I've been working with, when the slide that had the different sizes of signs that I showed earlier,
Yeah.
then they kind of wanted to show it on the building, what it would look like. And from that, I mean, both myself and our maintenance supervisor have looked at the building and mounting it, and our feeling was that the best location was above the doorway. Most people are looking at a building, for the address. It's usually mounted on the building. And actually, our fire service wants addresses on the buildings and numbers on the building itself. So in any case, we felt that was the best location for the address. The other sign that I said that we're planning on putting to the left of this lamppost would have the name of the building and would have all the departments that are in the building, with the legislature being at the top.
Thank you.
So what do you need from us, Arel? Do you need just to go from the committee, or what do we need?
Yeah, well, as I said, we have the exterior signs. Those are purchased and fabricated. We're going to install them. So I wanted at least agreement in the proposed locations for the ones that go, here next to the lamppost and the one in the front, because we're going to give direction to the installer, because they have to bring in mark for, tracing any underground lines or cabling. And then the building ID signs, I just need to know if you're in agreement with the one that I proposed, this size 8 by 36, then I would have them fabricate that, and then we would be installing it at a later date.
Would someone want to propose a motion to approve what Arel has shown us this morning?
I'll make a motion to the effect that we accept Rel's proposal for the 3 sign positions.
Is there a second to that?
Yeah, I think it's 4 signs, isn't it?
Yes, it's 1, 2, yes, 4.
4, okay, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
All right. Any discussion on that motion? Let's vote on it. Dan?
Yes.
Ann?
Yes, did we second it?
Yes, I think we did, didn't we? Brittany
I
said yes.
Okay, great.
Uh,
Yes.
Okay, David?
Yes,
And I vote yes. Aurel, could you, before you finish your slides, can you move back to the one that shows the DeWitt Park side?
This is the DeWitt Park side.
No, there was another one, an earlier one. Nope. Nope. No. No, sorry. That one.
Okay.
No, the one, the next one, you just flipped over it. That one.
Okay.
I just want to point out to everybody that canopy in front of the tower, which we've talked about in the past, really detracts from the historic nature of the building, particularly the tower. It interferes with the tower window from the lobby area, and in my opinion, ought to be moved over to the parking lot for it sometime in the future. I'll just leave it at that today, but I wanted to point that out to folks. And that's all I wanted to say about that. Thank you, Aurel.
You're welcome.
Photos were really nice, and even with your technical issues, they came across fine here.
All right. Well, thank you. I wanted to have it more polished, but I apologize for that.
Pictures are worth 1,000 words.
Right.
Is there anything else you'd like to bring to our attention this morning?
No, not at this point.
Any other questions this morning for Aurel? All right. Well, thank you very much.
All right. Thank you.
I think Jeff is up next. Jeff Smith, Highway Department Director.
Hello, everyone. Good morning.
Good
Morning.
Morning, Jeff.
The rain will green up those lawns. Looking forward to that. Wash some of the roads off. This morning, have a resolution and some information items, the map of projects, that sort of thing. First off, resolution is in regards to the South George Road Bridge over Virgil Creek in the town of Dryden. This bridge is completed. This was a Bridge New York funded grant, Bridge New York grant funded project. The town of Dryden was the sponsor. They applied and were awarded the grant. The bridge project went very well. It's a great, nice new bridge. This resolution takes care of the town, the local portion that the town of Dryden has paid already. The project is completely funded and completed and closed out. So this would be paying Dryden back for their local share, what they did for this county bridge. Just to talk about numbers, the total bridge cost was $1,240,638.19. The local share, again, that the town of Dryden has paid is $278,050.50. I recommend paying this back to the town of Dryden. Had this been our project, these costs would have likely been the same using this grant. I think it's really good, helps the county, helps the town. We are in the process of another round of Bridge New York grant. In good faith, I've talked with Jason, and we are not fully committing, but are offering to the towns to submit county bridge projects on town roads similar to this one. And we are also talking along the lines, confirming to the towns that the county will have time and input through our capital program, that local piece. At this time, the limit of the bridge, the grant program, is you can submit up to 3 bridges. So we are doing that at the county highway department. To give you an example of, numbers, we are looking at likely submitting up to 9 applications across the county on county bridges. So it really improves our odds to get funding I think it's a really good thing. Having enough notice and ahead of time and discussion, talking with Jason, don't see it being a problem. Working it into our capital plan really seems to make a lot of sense and a lot of good come out of it. In this case, the project funding reimbursement to the town is coming out of interfund transfer from our, it's a D fund, which is our reserve. The impact of the D fund is relatively small. There's still a large balance left in there, and I don't have that exact number, but it's like 800,000 or 900,000, and we're taking 278. Don't quote me, but it's in that ballpark. We did check with that with Rick. Rick recommended taking this quantity as Jason did as well. If you have any other questions, please.
Let's get it on the table. Would someone move this?
I'll move it.
Seconded by Ann. Now let's open up for discussion. Dan?
So this project, this bridge and the Freeze Road Bridge came as a pair, am I correct, from a state grant?
Name.
And it's not the town of Dryden. I'm sorry, Jesse, do you want to say something?
I was agreeing with you saying that they all were awarded at the same time, the same Bridge New York grant round. It was the first round.
Oh, God.
So, okay, thank you. So it's not the town of Dryden's fault that New York gave the grant to the town of Dryden and not to the county. It was a little unusual, but whatever. It's all good. It's all money. It's all bridges. It's all county residents. However, what the town of Dryden has done with the Freeze Road Bridge, I do not approve of, and they really have the town of Dryden has not followed the direction or the preferences or the opinions of most of the county legislature members every time we've been asked for feedback on it. And the result of that is that the town of Dryden is going ahead with a one-lane bridge with 2 traffic signals, a one-lane bridge in the 21st century. And I oppose that project very strongly. So I'm considering voting no on the resolution that's before us today as a protest vote to try to get the attention of the town of Dryden. I have nothing against this bridge, this project, or the idea that we should be helping the towns do this kind of thing. What I'm considering voting no on is, again, just to get their attention, to make them understand that by disregarding the preferences that were expressed by the legislature and then expect the county to reimburse them for money, there's a disconnect there. So I'll just say that, and I'm willing to hear my colleagues and anybody else that wants to say, Dan, that's a ridiculous idea, don't do that.
I'll speak to that if I may, since I'm the town rep in this district is in my district is where this bridge for George Road is. Dan, I share your frustration about Freeze Road, but I hope we could divorce this one from Freeze Road. And if there's to be a protest, I would think that it ought to be on the reimbursement for the Freeze Road Bridge, if they come to us for that, which they probably will. And they may ask us to also pay for what New York State DOT is going to require, and that is traffic signals on both sides of the bridge. And personally, I don't think that ought to be a county cost or county maintenance in the future, even though it's my town. But I do think we ought to take care of this. We took care of the local cost for, I believe, the bridge in Ulysses previously. This is helping us get these bridges into our road system as new bridges more quickly by going to the towns and working with them. I think it's a really good example of intermunicipal cooperation. Just as Jeff has talked about, we've got 9 bridges out there. Let's say we get 4 or 5 of them funded. We're able to get our bridges built faster than we would if we were just asking for it by ourselves. So I hope you would consider voting for this one. And if you want to propose a resolution about Freeze Road Bridge and take that up next meeting, I would certainly probably vote for it. But I do think we ought to go ahead with this one. Anyone else want to speak? Dave?
Yeah, Mike, I agree with you. I think we should pass this one through and give them the money back. And I definitely do not think we should pay for the stoplights on the Freeze Road Bridge due to the fact that they went totally against what we wanted and delayed the project for a year and a half or better. And so in my opinion, we don't have any skin in that game, and that's their problem. So that's where I stand.
Dave, anyone else? Ann, you have any comment?
I also concur regarding the one-lane bridge. I share the same sentiments that other folks have said, especially as strongly as Dan said it. With the one-lane bridge rather than a two-lane bridge that I really think they should have put in. And so with the stoplights, is there a way that we can let them know that at least this committee has talked about it? If we have a consensus that there's a possibility that we're not going to pay for those lights, so they know ahead of time?
Well, I will certainly report it back to the town and the highway superintendent. I informed them both that this resolution about George Road was on the agenda this morning. If they wanted to be here this morning, I invited them to do that, but they aren't here. I think they thought this was probably not controversial, but I will be glad to forward the comments that I'm hearing this morning about Freeze Road to the town.
I mean, I don't know if people said exactly why, but for me, it's about public safety for emergency vehicles and also for traffic congestion.
Okay, anyone else? May we vote on this resolution? Dave?
Yes.
Ann?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Thank you, Dan, for voting for that. That's unanimous. Go ahead, Jeff.
I would just like to add that the town is well aware that the county will not share in the maintenance or anything. It's been documented through the whole process multiple times that any traffic light, any appurtenances to the bridge, the actual structure that carries the road from one side to the other is the county's responsibility. Anything beyond that, a pedestrian attachment, lighting, anything, any kind of other enhancement would be completely on the town. And I believe, and I wholeheartedly agree that when the project hopefully gets completed, and this similar conversation, that I would not be recommending the full amount of reimbursement. There may be a piece in there where they helped us, but a lot of the cost and delay and the lack of inertia to move this project forward is not something that the county should be responsible in paying for. And there's a large price tag out there they're not even into the design phase. They're very preliminary. They've bounced it around to a lot of alternates. They've been one way and then bounced to the other way, kind of flip-flopped. And I agree with you fully. And I will not be here recommending the full local share for Freeze Road. I can say that for definite, in a definite way. This isn't about Freeze Road, but we are talking about it. So I just wanted to say, the last I heard, the town of Groton is interested, and they are going to take the trusses from the bridge, the existing trusses, which I think is great that there's going to be that preservation of that history. I don't know that the State Historic Preservation Organization has signed off on that. I don't know exactly where they are in that process, but the last I heard, they are interested and they are going to continue their efforts to try and secure that bridge for the town of Groton to be placed in a park or something. And I feel that at this time, the alternate they are progressing was not even one of the alternates that they talked about through the whole thing. They are now proposing a very modern concrete, modern guard, bridge railing system. Everything is going to look the same, but they're not 2 lanes wide. And I really feel like it should dial back into some more conversation. Their argument was historic, the context of the neighborhood, keeping the trusses there. If those trusses are pulled out of this piece, and I'm the last one that wants to dial things back and say, whoa, let's take longer, but at the same time, I'm with Mike and Dan, and I think the other ones, I would prefer a 2-lane bridge. I've made that known. There's multiple people around the forest, the fire protection, the law enforcement people all feel the same way. And I would like to see that, them reconsider and really design a modern 2-lane structure, or at least a modern 2-lane structure with wide sidewalks that someday down the road they could take the sidewalks off and have 2 lanes. I just think that we're saddling the next generation with a poor decision. And that's all I want to say.
Thank you, Jeff. As a representative from the town, I would say amen.
Feels good getting that out. Thank you. So that's passed. Great. So the next up are a couple of maps. I always want to really, these are dialed in. These are roads we're looking at. We're starting to cut canopy on them, get needed, culvert surveys, starting to procure culvert pipe that's going to need to be replaced. But I do want to caution, it is a draft, and as the season goes along and we are more in tune with the level of CHIPS funding and other things, that then we start to realize exactly what we're going to be able to do this year. Weather is a concern. A lot of things that can change this map from what happens, at the end of the year, what we've been able to complete. But this is what we're trying to do. This is where we're at. The lines in dark blue are our paving projects. The lines in pink are our chip seal roads. I've talked about that. That's our preservation end of things. We only did about half of our chip seal last year, so it's a pretty aggressive 32 miles or so of chip seal this year to try and make up. A lot of this chip seal is covering up roads that we've recently paved with binder. Now we want to seal them up. The news on chips I'll share is that it's pretty good right now. The Senate and Assembly have both upped our level of chips, and it also sounds like last year, if you remember, there was a 20% holdback or cut. We've been told that we're going to get that 75% of that 20% cut, another 15%. How we're going to get that, we're not sure if it's going to roll into this year. Us at Tompkins County, we did submit 100% for reimbursement because no one really knew what was going to happen. And when we got to that point, we submitted for the full reimbursement. We were sent 80. Based on that idea, we may get a check out of 2020 for that 15% additional, which would be good. I don't know what we'll do with it because it's last year. Not sure how we'll handle that. Or if it rolls, then we'll be able to adjust the budget this year as an expenditure, similar to what I've done with extreme winter recovery monies and things that come after the state budget's passed, and we do our best to get them into road improvement this year. So it's this from the state budget. What I hear they're getting from the federal end of things, as far as New York State seems to be faring pretty well. I do feel pretty optimistic that we're going to be getting some good funding. Certainly can't spend it until we know for sure. So if you have any questions on roads in your area, what we're going to do, if you have concerns about roads that we're not looking at yet, certainly pass them along. We're all ears. But there's our map for this year of our chip seal and paving projects. The next sheet is our capital projects. These are in various stages at this time, but this is kind of what's going on. We still have Ludlowville on there because there are some punch list items, some striping. They have to seal the deck, things like that when the weather straightens out. Ellis Hollow Road rehab was completed in the fall. Pretty good project, and that's just still on there just because it hasn't quite cleared out as far as billing. You'll see on our capital payment summary, there's a payment to Suco. The pink blocks are our 6 Bridge New York culverts that were awarded in the second round of the grant program. Those are latest news on those is that they may go into next year. As far as construction, we were hoping they were going to go this year. We have everything in place to go this year. The most recent news we've heard from the state is that there may be a couple of month delay having to do with some right-of-way process and some permitting from DEC. And if it gets into that couple of months from now, later, then it adds a few months, and it may make more sense to actually do the construction next year. Our response to that is similar to how we handle all of our capital projects, is that let's continue it. Let's get it bid out, even if it's this fall for next year's work. Then we have time, if the numbers are high or whatever, we can adjust and determine. But let's always get it to that bid opening and award phase. And then I think contractors are willing to bid in anticipation of next year's work. Then there's less things they're worrying about. They can organize, keep employees. There can be work. A lot of these are precast concrete. There's a lot of back room kind of information and shop drawings and exchanges and things like that have to take place before they even put a shovel in the ground. So we are urging them. The actual person we've been working with is going to ask up the ladder there to see if that's okay to do. And we haven't heard a response on that, but that's the latest on the 6 culverts.
Jeff, if I may, at the ITCTC meeting, Mark Frechette mentioned them. He's from New York State DOT,
Yep.
And he said that they're moving very quickly on their engineering end of it to approve them, trying to get them done as quickly as possible. He did mention there were a couple of right-of-way issues with a couple of these that could hold things up a little bit. And he also said that probably the costs are going to be higher because of some of the sizing and I think things that you mentioned before. But he did say they were trying to push these things right along.
Yeah, they've done really well. I mean, the target construction year was this year, and they're all but there except for things that are out of control. You really can't start right away until everything about the rest of the project is complete. And then there's a final map done, and then you realize the final footprint, and so then you can take those fine lines and then start the right-of-way process. So that's why a lot of projects really get to a point where they're really ready to build, and then you're negotiating with landowners through a process of evaluation and negotiation, and not to even give you the indication that it's contentious or it's anything. Normally, it's like little unusable slices of land. Very unusual. None of this that I know of is any kind of contentiousness. It's really just a long process that the federal and state guidelines mandate in order to utilize this money. So it really is just, it just takes time. And if there is questions in the middle, and that just extends everything. There's a lot of correspondence back and forth through multiple agencies. We're finding that now with Etna Road. Last month, I talked about Etna Road and how Central Chapel and Etna Road were running very parallel. And we anticipated that Etna Road would also be very close to going out to bid. And that's really kind of stuck in a right of way back and forth out there. So as I was going to say next on the list of the picture here, we have Central Chapel Road, the bid opening is this afternoon. It's today. So we should be hopefully get good numbers, and by next month we'll be hopefully awarding a low bidder and progressing that project. Etna Road isn't there yet, but we're also very close. If you look at the capital project map on Pine Tree HSIP, it was a safety grant. That's for a crossing. Those are pedestrian actuated flashing lights with a crosswalk. Even though it says Pine Tree, it's actually on Ellis Hollow, and it's crossing from the paved path that goes along Pine Tree, crosses Ellis Hollow over towards kind of where Burger King is up at East Hill. So that's was held up greatly by right of way. That seems to be the theme today. That's actually not complete. There's some signatures, there's some mapping that are in the final stages. And as soon as that's done, all the other work has been done, and we'll be able to put that out to bid. So that's
Okay.
kind of the capital project map, and that's just a moving thing. Other than that, we've been really busy here working with the other municipalities around the county, sharing information on the Bridge New York grant program, as well getting our grant applications for our bridges and culverts finalized and submitted. Deadlines are in April for the bridges and May for the culverts. So we'll work late and weekends to get those in. We're far enough. We're doing good, and we'll definitely meet those deadlines.
Questions for Jeff? Jeff, a couple of things. Central Chapel, I did hear from someone who lived over there, was concerned about not having a temporary bridge put in, and because of the long detours over the hill. And I asked that person to give you a buzz and see if talk, but that person was concerned about access by emergency vehicles to his property. Did you have any comments on the detour?
Yeah, that individual called me. He was very good. He just wanted to know, wanted to understand. I did point out that, and it wasn't to deter him, is what I told him. He immediately was like, okay, who else do I talk to? Who do I go above you? I'm like, talk to administration or your legislator or whatnot.
I gave Dan's name. I don't know what he called.
He called me also, yeah.
Good.
Okay. I did inform him that, there was a lot of conversation already about this subject, that the town highway superintendent of Caroline and the town board are well aware. Those, in addition to those fire districts in the area, Brooktondale, Slaterville, and Speedsville all have fire stations. They were all made aware. None of them had, and he seemed to relax a little. I said, that we had talked to them ahead of time already, and that none of them seemed concerned about any response for that. I mean, it's always a concern, but again, and then this individual also informed me that the area that he lives is out towards Speedsville. The distance from Brooktondale to Speedsville would not be much longer from the normal response time. There's a fire district in Speedsville. I don't think they're as well or as large as the Brooktondale main fire department. And utilizing Buffalo Road as the detour road, it's not more than 5 minutes out of the way. If he said that he lived just across the bridge or in the section of, I'd have to be easier to show you on a map, but where he is, the response time would be very minimally affected by even the original Brooktondale Fire Department. There's also Slaterville, which is very close to the end of Buffalo Road, and there's also a small fire department in Speedsville, which is right. I'm not exactly sure where he lives, but he said he lived out towards the end of Old 76 Road, which is Speedsville. I don't know. I haven't heard any more. He hasn't called me back. I got the sense that he wasn't completely happy by my response, but I felt like he was somewhat placated by some of that information. And I haven't heard any more.
Thank you for responding. Another question I had, we also got an email from, I don't know whom, but I sent that on to you about one of the roads and you responded that we're about to do that. I forgot which road that was. I'm sorry.
I think it was Schaefer Road.
Was it Schaefer Road?
I think,
And,
yeah. It's on the map.
So that's on your list to be done this year. That was good. I would like to have been able to respond to that person, but I didn't know how.
Yeah.
And the last thing I'll mention, also, the state said that we're going to have another round of, with Bridge New York and the culverts. Do we have culverts that we want to try to get funded the next round?
Yep, you can submit up to 5 culverts. We are submitting 5. The way it's worded in the Bridge New York grant is that you can submit 3 bridges and 5 culverts. You will not be awarded more than 2 bridges or 4 culverts. That's kind of how they're doing it, and it's been different every year. So yes, we are submitting. We've found them. A couple of them were real easy. We knew right away. We've looked around, looked for some good candidates. They're not as clear as the bridges. The bridges, everything's well documented and inspected and rated and everything. So very easy to find bridge candidates. Culverts, luckily not so easy, but we definitely have a couple really good culverts that we need. One is on Caroline Depot Road. There's Conlin Road there. I have to really kind of think about it, but we'll be submitting 5 culverts, the maximum allowed. I've been working with a lot of towns to help them, get them the information that they need to get their application submitted. The village of Dryden has specifically been talking with Paul Sabin about that, informing him, sending him form letters and information and contact information to get that application, help with that application. I believe the village of Dryden has a couple culverts that they're looking to submit for. I thought you'd be interested in that, Mike. And
the Lee Road culvert is, they tried before, it wasn't funded, but that it really needs work.
Yeah, Ulysses, Newfield, Lansing, the town of Ithaca. I've been talking with all these towns, Village of Dryden, town of Caroline, Danby, I believe, is interested. I haven't talked to them. They've been talking with both Nick and John in the office. So it's a well advertised grant program. This county, compared to a lot of counties in the Finger Lakes area, was hugely successful last round. It was like 13 million. The county, towns, and the city was awarded a couple of bridges as well. It's certainly something we want to be very, active and aggressive and get as many applications as we can submitted. And hopefully we can repeat that level of success as we did with the last round.
Okay, anything else for Jeff? Jeff, we've got a capital payment summary report. Does anyone have any questions on that this morning? Ellis Hollow Road, Ludlowville Bridge are the 2 projects that are being funded or paid payments here. Okay, and we also have a budget adjustment transfer request. Any questions on that? Okay, anything else before we end with our highway report? Jeff, thank you very much for a very thorough report this morning.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Have a good day.
You too, Jeff.
Let's go to Mike Hall for the airport. Welcome, Mike.
Good morning, Mike. In terms of a situation report, we're starting to work our way out of the pandemic. It's a very, very fluid situation. We'll start with the fact that working with the state, almost everyone who's associated by employment with the airport has been vaccinated at this point. So in addition to the other protocols of cleaning and social distancing and masking, we're a pretty safe place to travel. The guard will be leaving at the end of the week. They were put in here because the governor's travel mandate was not able to be properly enforced by local officials. That's an indication that things are loosening up. We've been told that first a couple of weeks ago that there's now a relationship between quarantine and vaccination, but that's not shown up in terms of detail that we can relate to the public. We've also been told that the quarantine requirement will be lifted for domestic travel, but not for international travel effective 1 April. That also is not fully explained. And by that, I mean that we tell everybody to go to flyethica.com where there are links to the New York State Department of Health website, which is where travel restrictions are addressed. And we don't try to interpret them. We expect people to check frequently, first in the planning stage and then right up to the point of execution to see what the very latest information is. And that information has not been keeping up with the governor's announcements, if you will, but I expect it will. And so right now we're expecting that come the 1st of April, quarantine will not be required. The filing of health forms will be required, so that there's a record of who came in and where they came from. And, we'll move to the next steps, whatever those next steps might be. The rules for travel have been taken over by the federal government. So from the time you enter airport property on this end till you leave airport property on the other end, there is now one coherent system of rules that's being enforced by TSA. And, it includes all the stuff that we're used to. There's nothing, if you're part of New York, there's no change. You're expected to socially distance and mask and what have you, but it is now uniform throughout the country. Whereas previously, New York had its rules and you went to a place like Texas and it was a completely different set of rules, or Florida. So that's been standardized. All the way around, it looks like we're coming out of the difficult period of trying to manage the health of a population that's been exposed to a pandemic. From the standpoint of airport finances, I'm just going to give you a high level view of that. We have received 3 tranches, not received, but we've been committed 3 tranches of federal support for the air transportation system at the airport level. Now, there's been significant support for the airlines, for employees and all that sort of thing, but at the airports, we have now received commitment for $5 million of support here at Ithaca. That's on top of having a fund balance that's grown over the past few years to 1.2 million. So let's say that there's $6 million in play. My estimate is it's going to take us a couple $1 million to get through the losses of the pandemic and recover our service, leaving, somewhere in the vicinity of $4 million. That money at the course level of discussion can be spent on current operation expenses. And we will be wanting to spend some of that money on current operations, including getting some precision advice about how to rebuild our market and relieving some of the challenges that our concessionaires have had meeting their requirements to the airport in terms of leases and what have you. The other thing it can be spent for is to pay down debt. So my recommendation at this point is that we move with care, obviously keep track of where we are, but there is the potential that between a NYSEG pipe alternative, no pipe alternative settlement and the balance of the federal funds, we could reduce debt. The other thing we can do is reduce debt. We could reduce debt down and it could go as low as $8 million worth of bonding, which was the original goal going into the airport project, because 7 years ago, it was going to cost us $8 million just to fix the bag belt in the front of the terminal, so to speak, the security issues that we had in the airport. So, stay tuned. But I think that when it comes to concern, the only real issue we have here at the airport is how much is traffic going to recover and what's our position going to be when that recovery takes place. And now I'll put my state hat on from our Aviation Association and tell you that New York is 50 out of 50 in terms of air service recovery nationally. And that is soon going to be a major issue in the recovery of our economy. Because, of course, as we've said in the past, we are linked to a national economy and a global economy, and air transportation has a great deal to do with the strength and recovery of that economy. So that's been communicated to the governor's office, and certainly there's a trend of late to recognize that we may have gotten to a point in the pandemic where we can start to loosen up some of the restrictions, and we'll just see how all that goes. But New York, has some real challenges going forward. That's kind of where we are for the pandemic. You've got not a resolution, but a information item. It's year-end balancing of our budget. I don't believe there's anything significant there. Typical of this time of year to move a few bucks here and there to get everything balanced out. So subject to your questions.
Questions for Mike? Mike, I wondered, I think you mentioned previously that there might have been a flight coming in that went through customs. Has that happened?
Yeah, we've had a scattering of international travel. Now, international travel is still, for good reason, significantly restricted. And the flights we've had have been, there was one that came through from Europe and one from Canada, for example, to use a couple of examples. It's been a handful. That segment is going to recover more slowly than others, but we've had real good response from the flights that came through. They were impressed by the way they were handled. They were impressed by the fact that they didn't have to wait to get in here. And so I think that, we look forward to a day much further in the future than we had envisioned when we started this whole thing, when a pretty good flow of general aviation from north of the border can come here and enjoy the Finger Lakes and the things that we have to offer as a community. And also, there'll be significant international flow in support of our industries, particularly the education industry, from Europe and the Pacific Rim. That's going to be a while coming under the circumstances. But, every indication is that the slogan we have these days is, "We're ready when you are." And that's certainly true for customs and international travel, as well as, for the terminal and commercial aviation.
Out of curiosity, any idea where these flights are coming from? These are through the FBO, right? Fixed base operator.
They get handled by the FBO. They are in that broad category of general aviation, which covers everything from small private aircraft up through corporate aircraft and chartered aircraft. And yes, Europe and Canada, but it's still difficult enough to travel, and for a lot of reasons, people aren't traveling. So that's been our trade so far. But we're ready to take anybody from anywhere as soon as the authorities judge that the health situation is acceptable.
Okay, thank you. The other question I had: have you had any contact yet with our engineers about the CDL site?
Yes, I asked for an update and was given a site map that shows, remember that zoning at the airport is a federal issue with the FAA. And so we have a site map that, and remember too, at the original the original site map is where TCAT plans to relocate. So we had to look for another spot. We have that site map and, a full up commercial contract to prepare the site and pave it and what have you is a little over $750,000. That's an estimate. That's probably $250,000 up from where we were on the old site, which is now going to be TCAT that has considerable site preparation already taken care of. And of course, remember that our plan was to try to do a combination of self-help plus, getting some bucks for those things that we had to purchase in order to do this. So a little bit more expensive because of the fact that the new site, which fits zoning, is not, needs more prep. But the same concept applies. I think there are ways that we can use county assets to reduce the cost. So I pass that to administration, and I'll defer to Lisa, or if she wants to add anything else.
I think everything that Mike said, plus we were hoping to work with Jeff and Highway to see if we can work together, work locally to bring the cost down further. So being that we just received the estimates recently, we'd like another month or so to look and see what we can do with our own assets to try to bring that cost down, as Mike said.
Sure, but I'm pleased to hear you've received the estimates. That's good news. Okay, anything else for Mike? Mike, thanks for being with us. Oh, I'm sorry, Ann, didn't see your hand. Go ahead.
Thanks, Mike and Mike. So I had a question. I think you had said regarding being able to possibly bring down the amount of the money owed or the bonding from 10 million to 8 million. Is that correct?
Well, the current limit on bonding that was proposed by administration or passed is 13 million. And, we have always, the capital plan for the airport development had a target of 10 million. And that included money from various places like New York State Electric and Gas, No Pipe Alternative. And by the way, we just picked up, and I've forgotten the number off the top of my head this morning, something like $250,000 from NYSERDA, incentives for having moved to a cleaner form of energy in the terminal. When you add all that up, I was hoping for $10 million. The bond limit is 13, but our back of the envelope hip pocket has always been, it'd be pretty neat if we were able to deliver all these improvements to the airport at the same price tag that we had in 2014, just to fix the front end of the terminal and solve the federal security write-ups that we had. So it's aspirational, but it's a good thing. It's really, really important that we reduce the debt as much as possible, because that flows back through the business plan and it becomes a charge to the airlines. And the one thing about this airport, there's no better airport in the country in terms of federal compliance and you name it, right? But the one thing that has always been difficult, and this goes back several decades, has been what's called the cost per enplanement. And that's how much the airlines have to pay for every passenger they put on an airplane. And we've been, $20 and north. The airlines want to see $13. Is it significant in the end? Not at all, except for one thing. It's a pebble in the shoe. It's a statistic that sticks out. And, the airlines are always wanting to do business cheaper. So they'll look at Syracuse and they'll say, well, Syracuse is at $12 and you guys are at 20. One of the big components of that has to do with debt and debt service. And the other thing, of course, is that the airport has been an independent unit economically, whereas virtually every other airport around about has local tax dollars flowing into it, which reduces the cost of the airlines. But, that's not a position that I would recommend or that we've taken. So we just want it when the music stops and we hopefully we get back to where we were a year and a month ago, which was up 20% from where we were previously and roughly 10,000 passengers a month. At that rate, with an $8 to $10 million debt service, our cost per employment will finally have been brought back down in the competitive level. We'll be well positioned going forward to, operate economically. I hope that answered your question.
Yes, thank you very much, Mike. Thank you for looking at the overall costs, to keep us competitive. Thank you.
Dave, is that your hand up?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Hey, Mike, just a question. I can't remember where we're at with the customs agent. Are we still bringing somebody down from Syracuse?
No, we have a customs agent assigned here now, and that agent obviously is not overworked. So we also participate in kind of a pool process, if you will, in which the assets that Customs and Border Patrol have are movable to where they need them. It's just right now they don't really need them anywhere. So to be continued. One of the things that we had hoped to do going into this situation was to share our customs capability with Binghamton and Elmira. Customs and Border Patrol have closed their station in Binghamton because it was inadequate. We've got a beautiful new station, and with the addition of, think about a Winnebago office, we could cover Corning and Elmira and whatever travel came into Binghamton at a fee, so that we would make some money back on that. And customs is very difficult to deal with, and they rejected the idea of a regional port of entry, if you will. But we have a new administration now, and we're looking at this whole subject differently, and we're going to reopen that discussion because for the airplane, particularly Corning coming into Elmira, we could make some fees, and we've already spent the money to build the facility here. They don't need to spend that money, and they can't. Both Binghamton and Elmira take over $1 million a year of local tax money, and that's and customs is a loss leader. You're never going to recover the full cost of customs from fees. It's going to be part of the bigger airport picture, like the fuel farm, for example, is a center of revenue at the airport that's going to help pay for customs. And the idea is that the total package is going to be sustainable with internal funding. And just to give you an example, I was out at Appleton, Wisconsin a few years ago, and they had a new customs building, and I asked them what they were charging to clear a general aviation airplane from Canada, like a 4-seater coming down to enjoy the lakes in Wisconsin. Their answer was $350. And I said, well, how many people were coming? They said, none. Well, yeah, guess why? So, you've got to have a fee structure that supports more airplanes coming to your airport, and the fuel sales that are associated with them, and the hotel rentals and all the other things that go with, providing access to your region for tourism. That's one small part of the whole thing. The other thing, of course, is all the business travel. You got people like Borg Warner that have a global empire and of business, and they right now, they can't come from Canada straight in here, but they can now. But my point is, that's the value of customs. So we're going to try to spread it over the region, and with the changes in Washington, that might turn out to be a viable option. It was not, a year ago.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Thanks very much for being here, Mike.
Thank you, Mike.
Barbara Ekstrom, Recycling and Materials Management.
Good morning. How are you?
Well, thank you for coming.
Yes, of course, my pleasure. We have a couple of items today, and I'm going to take a minute to explain the first one. As of the end of this month, Challenge will no longer be providing confidential paper shredding in Tompkins County for our departments. We learned about that at the end of the year, and we quickly had to put together a request for proposals from private vendors. They went out of the business of doing that. So we have had success. Most departments participate. The county, our department actually is paying for it and has been. We received 4 proposals from companies in Syracuse and in Binghamton. And we were paying in 2020 about $8,000 a year for the 15 or so departments. And that was 23 cents a pound. The new rate is that it appears that Pro Shred is clearly the winner from all aspects in this procurement. Pro Shred is out of Syracuse. They have the most experience working with municipalities as opposed to large corporations, Onondaga County, Madison County, and a number of others, and we've checked references and they're excellent. We'll be paying, we anticipate, around $9,800, which we expected in our budget for that cost to be far more because Challenge had already told us that their prices were almost going to double. So we're in good shape. The term of the contract is 1 year with 2 one-year extensions. The next highest proposal was 17,000 as opposed to 9,800, and that was shredded. What's different and better, I think, for us about this proposal is that this is going to be on-site shredding, and our security person, Roger, likes that a lot better. Roger's been very involved because it's secure documents that are being shredded, and the fact that they that they're shredded on site allows, meaning outside, there's a truck and they shred in the back. It's very common, and that's why a lot of other municipalities have liked the service. The other thing that I think is great is that it opens us up to providing a service to the public. We're hoping that we can do at least one shred event. It's a budget issue because you know how tight our budget is, but that would be something a lot of our public are asking for now that we couldn't do something with Challenge. So my recommendation is to go with them. They do bring the material back to shred facility. It's really, really hard to do shredded paper along with regular paper at a facility like ours. It creates a lot of dust. It causes a lot of hardship in the way the material is handled. So I'd like to recommend that we move forward with them quickly. And
Let's see if we can get the resolution on and then see if we have questions.
Oh,
someone want to move it? Dan, seconded by Dave. Go ahead. You can finish, Barbara, and then see if we have questions.
No, I feel pretty good about this one. And I think that, we'll see, there's a lot of work to this, just so you know. Leo and his assistant here did a lot of work in identifying for the departments roughly how many of the closed containers are going to be needed in the offices and how much material we're talking about. Then there's going to be a lot of individual department and an office building work, to move this thing along. But based on our recommendations, the attitude of this company is very much of customer service. So they'll be on site and we'll be gearing up early April.
Questions? Ann?
Thank you for telling us all about that, Barb. And so I had one question. So if this company comes, does the shredding, do they keep the shredding then, are you saying?
Yeah, I mean,
So you don't have to
there
handle
isn't a
that.
company that would actually bring the material to us like Challenge did. And quite frankly, you know, our security person here was uncomfortable with that because, you know, it would come in to a facility that was open to risk. It's okay. I mean, it's not a lot of tons. The material is getting recycled and we're meeting, you know, the security requirements are very, very stringent these days. One of the things about Challenge is that the people that were shredding, of course, couldn't really read the documents, and that helped quite a bit. You know, I wasn't happy that it happened so quickly, and you know, we noticed the service was becoming less and less adequate as Challenge was moving in a different direction. But, you know, we're here now.
And so you talked about the opening it up to possibly the public. Would we be able to charge for that, or were you thinking that was going to be?
No, we would never charge for it. It would just be included in the annual fee. That would be way too cumbersome.
Okay.
But you know, it wouldn't be a lot of money. Again, we would have to figure out where it could be done. You know, we once did it here at our office with Challenge. That worked out really, really well. But, you know, we have to limit participation. Probably it would, you know, if anything, it would be a reservation system, just like what we do with HHW, or maybe not. We haven't thought about it. It just opens us up to that possibility during the year.
And would you suggest for people that have home shredders to not shred at home? Does that really mess up
No.
your okay.
Yeah, people should keep shredding at home. That's no problem.
Okay.
And you know, those little amounts can go right into the recycling bin. That's not a problem either.
All right, thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
Any other questions? We're ready to vote? Let's see, Dave,
Yes,
Ann,
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
I vote yes.
Thank you.
I see we got another resolution, but this one's a budget adjustment.
Yes.
Let's put it on the table here and then you can explain it. Budget adjustment, recycling materials management department, 10015. Ann's moving it. Is there a second? Seconded by Dave. Go ahead.
Real briefly, I've been reporting to the PEQ committee about the program of shredded. You know, getting these reusable bags through the 5-cent fee, and what happened last year is it took the state a while to send money since it had just started and there was COVID. We received almost all of that money in December, and you know, to Rick's office, and we weren't able to use it in the couple of weeks we had in 2020. So what this does is it allows us to move the money into spending for 2021. We've gotten permission from the state. We have distributed bags. We really only started the program when we got our first bags in October, and those went to Loaves and Fishes. And we have other entities that we're now building relationships with. Our DSS department gave us some contacts, and we haven't heard back only because they haven't been like meeting people in person. But I am working with the Food Policy Council, which I'm involved in, and there's food banks where these are going to go. And we should see a lot more activity now that we have the money and the systems in place. I have one person who coordinates that, and our driver for the food scrap collection program is the one that can drop these bags off. We just started up with the, what's it called? The Ithaca Free Clinic. But, you know, if anybody here has any other thoughts, I'm going to be working with a number of different people in the community now with my staff person, and that's going to be a well-oiled machine. Don't forget what's going to happen. As less and less plastic bags are, you know, we don't have any use of plastic bags anymore. We're going to wind up getting less and less revenue. But this is a ton of revenue. We have like, what, $24,000 or something like that. So, I mean, that's the game plan here. Any questions?
And the reason it's a resolution is because it's the size of the transfer.
Anything more than $5,000, that's correct.
Ready to vote, folks?
Sure.
Dan?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Ann?
Yes.
Oh, yes. We got a couple information items. We got a budget transfer request.
Yeah, these are, as all my counterparts have stated, these are just year-end adjustments. If finance put some money for professional services, for example, into disposal instead of, you know, revenues rather in one place, it's just shuffling around to balance the budget. Nothing too eventful going on here.
Any questions there?
No.
Okay, we also have a capital payment summary.
Yeah, these are just some old bills that somehow never made it to the committee. And after doing some double, triple checking with finance, indeed, we need to pay them. They're part of the scope of work for BNL, and they're going to roll into 2021 as well. So this work was associated with finalizing the contract with Casella for the new recycling center. And I will point out that what you'll be seeing in the future, since we have a new contract as of March 1, you'll be seeing bills not only from our oversight with BNL, but there'll be design bills with the company Casella hired for new construction, as well as, you know, come spring, late spring, some construction bills. So that's what's going on here. They recently dismantled the diversion line that's not going to be used. And it was so funny because I had heard about it. I got a picture from my staff. Then as I was driving home yesterday, I had just passed Stewart Park. I was at the light there to make a left to go to Lansing. And there was a guy right in front of me that had a piece of the diversion line right in front of, like right in the back of his truck in a trailer. And I thought, oh my goodness, this is too coincidental. So obviously, you know, the metal gets reused. That's all that's going on. We're doing.
Thank you, Barbara. Anything else for Barbara?
Any questions about anything? I will be coming here in May with 2 reports. I'm trying to stagger my reports. I will have a summary for you of how the food scrap residential drop spot program is going. There's a lot of positive news there. And I will also be giving you, Mike, your favorite report, the annual contamination report in terms of where we are with the facility. Last year, I think we were between 5 and 6% contamination rate. We instituted the warning and rejection program at the curb, which is going very well in terms of people who are doing the wrong thing. We're down to about 200 homes every 2 weeks, like 100 homes a week of like 40 something thousand homes. It's been a huge success. And hopefully what we're going to find, we're finishing up our last sort at the facility for contamination. I hope we find that it's lower than what it was. So stay tuned in May. All of those will be in the form of one-page reports.
Thank you, Barbara. And as you know, it's very always interesting for this committee to know what's going on like that at the curb.
You bet. It involves your residents. So yeah. Very good.
Okay, thanks,
Thank you.
thanks for a nice report.
Thank you very much. Have a good week.
See, Barb.
The last two meetings, we had discussion about proposed goals. I asked Katrina and Brittany to please put them together in a list, a bullet list based on our minutes. And I've had that attached to the agenda today for your look at and review. A couple of things came in from Ann that I added in there after our meetings. And I wondered what comments you folks have about this.
Looks good.
Dave?
Yeah, no, that looks good, Mike. I think it's fine.
Ann?
It's good. I thought of one more thing. I don't know, it might not be for this year, but just something to think about, you know, for next year, but so I just want to put it out there, is to improve accessibility to our facilities. For, you know, just an example is for our building that, you know, there's an automatic access door button where you can press to I think for the downstairs, for the main entrance at the ramp, I believe there's a button to open the
Yes.
door.
Yes, there is.
But and then you can get on the elevator. But once you get upstairs, is there? I'm trying to think. I think there's not one there to get into the legislature. There's one part where it's missing, that you have to have somebody come out and open that door for you.
We'll check on that.
But anyway, I just to think about, because I know that there was a review done a few years back. We had a report in WDIC a couple of years ago. So there is an evaluation that has been done of the buildings. So maybe to look at that at some point later in the year if there's time.
You would like us to add a review of accessibility to buildings? Is that
Right.
what
Yeah,
you
so
want
there
to
is
say?
a review that has been done. So maybe we can get that report, you know, late in the year to look at it for the next.
Report on accessibility of buildings.
Right. Yeah, Lisa's shaking her head, so she knows about that, right?
Yeah, facilities did that review a few years back. I know there's a rel. Alan was involved in that report. That was the report that was shared with WDIC, I think last year or the year before.
Well, perhaps we could get copies of that and take a look at it at some point.
And I mean, I can mention for that building in particular, we involved Larry from Flick before we started improvements, and he never mentioned that door. But you know, he pointed out actually the bathroom behind Mike there, we had two doors initially, and we had removed one of them. So we made design modifications, but that never came up in his assessment. Just so those of you that weren't here back then are aware. So we did involve Larry from Flick to do that for us. We thought it was a good move to make it accessible. It's certainly something we can look at, those double doors coming into the chamber space.
Thanks for that, Arul. Anything else on goals? Let's take minutes of February 18th. Someone want to move those?
Yeah, I'll move.
Dan, seconded by Dave. Discussion about the minutes. Ready to vote? Dave?
Yes,
Ann?
No, I mean, yes.
Dan?
Yes.
I vote yes.
Threw me off, man.
Anything else?
Channeling Amanda.
Anything else anyone would like to bring up this morning before we adjourn? Thanks to everyone who's been here. Thanks to Lisa and Arel and Jeff and Barbara, and certainly to Brittany for helping us. All in favor of adjourning? We're adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mike.
Have a good day.